Oh, spirit. Okay. Okay. I hear you. I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what just landed in this energy as I was sitting down to read for Virgo today is not something I was expecting when I pressed record. Like, I genuinely had to shuffle my cards twice, put them down, take a breath, and then pick them back up again, because what came through was so immediate and so specific that I needed a moment to make sure I was reading it correctly before I started talking. I was reading it correctly. There is a group of people who have been sitting in a circle talking about you. And I do not mean that in the vague, general, somebody somewhere might be discussing you, since that sometimes floats around in readings like this. I mean a specific group, multiple people, possibly people who know each other, who have been gathering, whether physically or through their phones and their messages and their private conversations around the subject of you. And what started as gossip, as the casual, almost recreational discussion of your life and your choices and your story, has turned into something that those people did not anticipate when they started it. It has turned into a problem for them. Stay with me, Virgo, because this reading is going to reveal things that are going to make you want to sit down. Let me begin by setting the energetic scene, because I always feel like the context of a reading matters as much as the content of it. And right now, as I'm sitting with your energy and looking at what Spirit is bringing through, what I am feeling first is this almost buzzing quality, like when you put your hand near something electrical and you feel the charge before you actually make contact. That charge is the energy of multiple people's attention being directed at you simultaneously. And I want to explain something important about that kind of energy, because understanding it changes how you relate to what is happening. When a group of people focus their collective attention on someone, they create a specific kind of energetic field around that person. And this field has a quality that depends entirely on what is motivating the attention. Genuine admiration creates one kind of field. Envy creates another. Fear creates another still. And each of these fields actually affects the person at the center of it in ways they can feel even when they cannot identify the source. You have been feeling something. I feel that clearly. A kind of background awareness that eyes are on you, that conversations are happening, that there is more going on around you in certain circles than what is visible on the surface, and that whatever is going on, it is not entirely comfortable. That feeling has been accurate. Okay, so I'm pulling into the energy of this group now, and I want to describe what I'm seeing and feeling, because Spirit is being incredibly detailed here. This is not a group that formed with the explicit intention of targeting you. That is the first thing I want to clarify, because the energy does not have the quality of a coordinated campaign or a deliberate conspiracy. What I am feeling is more organic than that, more human, more the way these things actually tend to develop in real social dynamics. It started with one person who had something to say about you, something they felt, something that was bothering them, something that perhaps grew out of envy or insecurity, or a situation between them and you that did not resolve the way they wanted it to resolve. They took that something and they brought it to someone they trusted. And in that conversation, they began to build a narrative. I'm seeing this narrative take shape. It is the kind that requires the omission of certain facts to make sense, that requires the absence of your perspective to maintain its internal logic. That depends on you not being in the room to offer the context that would complicate or contradict what is being said. So you were kept out of the room deliberately, and the narrative was built and then shared and then shared again, and then embellished slightly with each sharing. The way narratives do when they travel through multiple people without anyone going back to verify with the primary source, until it reached a point where it had taken on a life that was considerably larger and considerably more distorted than the original kernel it grew from. But here is where Spirit is showing me something that I did not see coming when I started this reading, and I want to make sure this lands because this is the most significant energy in what is coming through right now. The narrative is collapsing, not slowly, not gradually, with the specific speed of something that was built on a foundation that was never solid enough to support the weight that got piled onto it. I am seeing a structural failure. The specific moment when a story that has been circulated too widely, involving too many people with too many different relationships to the truth, reaches the point where the inconsistencies within it become impossible to reconcile, where someone in the circle asks a question that the narrative cannot answer cleanly, where a piece of information surfaces that contradicts something that was stated with confidence, where two members of this group compare notes and realize that they were told different versions of the same story. This is happening right now in the timeline of your life. This collapse is already in process. Wait. Spirit is giving me something very specific right now, and I want to slow down to receive it properly. I'm getting the energy of a confrontation within this group itself, not between you and the group, within the group, among its members. The specific, uncomfortable, slightly panicked energy of people who build something together, beginning to realize that what they build has structural problems that are now becoming visible to people outside their circle. There is blame happening, the kind of internal blame that happens when a shared project starts to go wrong and the participants begin positioning themselves to be the one who is least responsible for the failure. Who knew the least? Who had the least involvement? Who can most credibly distance themselves from the original source of the problem before the full extent of it becomes visible? I am seeing people in this group backing away from each other, subtly at first, then less subtly. The solidarity that existed when the narrative was successfully contained is fracturing because the narrative is no longer successfully contained and nobody wants to be the last person standing in the center of something that has become a liability. This fracturing, Virgo, is the problem the title of this reading is describing. The talking about you has turned into a problem, not for you, but for the people doing the talking, because what they set in motion is now moving in a direction they cannot control, and the fallout from that movement is beginning to land on them rather than on you. I want to describe what this fallout actually looks like, because I feel it specifically, and I think it will matter to you to understand the nature of what is happening to these people as a result of what they put in motion. Reputation. That is the first thing I am seeing. Reputation being affected. The specific, difficult to recover from kind of reputational damage that happens when people discover that someone they trusted to give them accurate information about a third party was not being accurate. When they realize they were used as a vehicle for a narrative that turned out to be distorted. When they understand that their willingness to accept and repeat what they were told made them, however unwittingly, participants in something that does not reflect well on anyone involved. The people in your orbit who received pieces of this narrative are having their own reckoning right now. And the reckoning is not comfortable for the people who delivered the narrative to them. Relationships are shifting. The social fabric around this group is reorganizing itself in ways that are removing these people from certain positions of trust and influence that they had previously occupied quietly without dramatic announcement, but unmistakably. Does this feel like it is landing somewhere real for you, Virgo? Have you sensed that something has been shifting in the dynamics around you, that energies which were directed at you have started to redirect themselves, that certain people who had been a source of difficulty in your social world seem to be dealing with their own difficulties now? Drop it in the comments. Tell me what you have been observing. I want to know. Let me speak now to something that I feel Spirit really wants Virgo to understand about this moment. Because there is a piece of this that goes beyond the simple satisfaction of watching something that was directed at you turn back on itself. This is a lesson in energetic return. And I mean that in the most real, most observable, most not at all mystical sense of the phrase. What these people are experiencing right now is simply the natural consequence of investing significant energy in the construction and maintenance of a distorted narrative about another person. The energy they put into this did not disappear. It did not simply affect you and then dissipate. It remained attached to them, to their choices, to the specific decisions they made about how to use their words and their social currency and their relationships. And now that energy is producing its harvest, not through any intervention, not through anything you did or asked for or orchestrated, through the simple, mechanical, entirely predictable process of consequences following choices. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because I think there is something deeply reassuring in understanding that you did not have to do anything to bring this about. You simply had to continue being who you are. Continue operating from your own integrity. Continue trusting that the truth of who you are would eventually become visible enough to contradict whatever false version of you was being circulated. And it has. It is. Right now. Spirit is also showing me something very specific about one person within this group, a particular individual whose energy stands out from the others, who was either the originator of this situation or the most enthusiastic participant in it. And I want to speak to this person's current state because I feel it very clearly. They are in a state that I can only describe as the specific panic of someone who has realized too late that they went too far, that the moves they made were bolder than the foundation supporting them could sustain, that they overestimated their own invulnerability and underestimated the natural consequence of truth eventually surfacing. I am getting sleepless nights. I am getting the kind of anxious, circular thinking that keeps someone's mind running at full speed even when their body is exhausted. The replaying of decisions, the questioning of choices that seemed safe when they were made and that now reveal themselves to have been much less safe than they appeared. I am also getting a very specific energy of trying to reach you or trying to reach people close to you. Some kind of preemptive move, an attempt to get ahead of the coming revelation, to shape how you receive the information that is making its way toward you before it arrives in its unmediated form. This reaching is not genuine. I want to say that clearly. Whatever contact comes from this direction, if it comes, is not motivated by authentic care or honest intention. It is motivated by the specific self-protective instinct of someone who sees what is coming and is trying to position themselves favorably before it lands. Your discernment will recognize this. Trust it. I want to speak now to the witnesses, because in every situation like this one, there are people who were adjacent to what was happening, who received information, who were part of conversations, who knew more than they perhaps acknowledged to you. And the position these people are in right now is its own complicated territory. Some of them are going to come to you with apologies, perhaps, with information, certainly, with the specific, slightly uncomfortable quality of someone who is making a belated correction to their earlier participation in something they should not have participated in. Their approach might feel awkward, because it is awkward, because there is no graceful way to be the person who had information and did not immediately share it with the person it concerned. How you receive these people is yours to determine. Your own sense of what their intentions are, what their role was, what they are actually offering when they come to you is the guide. Some of them genuinely regret their participation and are genuinely trying to make it right. Others are simply repositioning for their own reasons. Your extraordinary Virgo discernment, that specific, almost unfair ability to read what is actually motivating someone's behavior, will tell you which is which. Trust that reading. Act from it. Inhale with me for a moment, Virgo, because I want to shift into something that I feel is equally important and that I do not want to skip past in the energy of all the revelation that is coming through. I want to talk about you and what this period has been like from the inside. Because while all of this has been happening around you, while this group has been doing what it has been doing, and the consequences have been building, and the collapse has been developing, you have been living your life, carrying what you carry, doing what you do, showing up for the things and the people that matter to you, while also navigating that background sense of something being off, something being said, something happening in a space you cannot fully see. That dual navigation, being fully present in your own life while also managing the awareness that something unpleasant is happening around you, has been its own kind of cost. Not the loudest cost, not the most dramatic expression of difficulty, but real, in the way that low-grade, persistent things are real. In the way they color the texture of ordinary days without necessarily producing acute crisis, but without ever fully releasing their grip either. Spirit is honoring that cost right now. I feel that very clearly. There is an acknowledgement in the energy of this reading that what you have been carrying, while doing so with the grace and the dignity and the fundamental commitment to your own integrity that is your signature, has not been nothing. It has been something, and you have handled it with more class than it deserved. Let me speak to what is opening up for you as a result of this situation turning into a problem for the people involved in it, because I do not want this reading to simply be about their downfall. I want it to be about what their downfall creates in the landscape of your life. Space. That is the first thing I am seeing. Space where there was previously the occupation of this situation, taking up energy, attention, background awareness. The space that is created when something that has been a source of low-level distress resolves itself is significant. Not just in the obvious sense of the removal of a negative thing, but in the specific sense of what becomes possible in the absence of what was draining you. Your energy, the specific, extraordinary, highly creative, and highly perceptive energy that is your natural state when it is not being partly consumed by the management of a difficult situation, is returning to you fully in a form that has more available to direct toward the things that actually matter to you. I am seeing you stepping into something in the wake of this resolution, a fuller version of your own life. a more complete expression of what you are capable of when you are not spending any portion of your considerable resources on managing or processing or quietly navigating something that was operating at your expense. This fuller version is beautiful. Spirit is showing it to me clearly, and it is so much closer than it might currently feel like. Oh, Spirit is giving me one more piece, and it is coming through very insistently, so I want to make sure it reaches you before we close. Your name is being spoken differently now. In the circles where it was being spoken unkindly, where the narrative about you was being constructed and circulated, the quality of how your name moves through the air has changed. The confidence with which negative things were being said has reduced. The willingness of people to add their voices to a narrative that is clearly becoming problematic has diminished. And in some cases, the narrative itself is being actively corrected, replaced with something that more accurately represents who you actually are. I am seeing your reputation, your actual reputation, the one built from the reality of who you are and how you operate and what you bring to the people and situations in your life, reasserting itself, not through anything you have done to push it, simply through the natural, inevitable process of truth being more durable than distortion. Truth is more durable than distortion, Virgo. It always has been, it always will be, and what is more durable always, eventually, outlasts what is less durable. The distortion is losing its durability. The truth is what remains. Your name is being reclaimed by reality, by the people who actually know you, by the natural consequence of a false narrative being exposed to the air long enough that its falseness becomes visible. And that reclaiming, quiet as it might be in its current stage, is the most powerful thing that has happened in this situation since it began. I want to address something before we close because I feel it sitting in the energy and I do not want to leave it unacknowledged. The satisfaction of watching something that was directed at you turn back on the people who directed it is a human feeling, and you are allowed to feel it without guilt, without the need to immediately convert it into something more spiritually elevated or more gracious than a simple, honest acknowledgement that there is a part of you that finds a particular justice in what is unfolding. Feel that. It is not beneath you. It is not a failure of your character or your compassion or your commitment to operating from a higher place. It is simply the honest human response of someone who has been navigating something unjust and who is watching the universe correct the imbalance. Feel it, honor it, and then let it go. Not because feeling it is wrong, but because what comes after this situation fully resolves is so much better than anything that exists within the drama of it. And you deserve to be fully present for what comes after rather than remaining energetically attached to what is currently ending. The satisfaction is valid, and then you move forward into the fuller, lighter, more genuinely you version of your life that is waiting on the other side of all of this. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with the piece of this that I feel is most essential for you to carry. You did not create this situation. You did not deserve it. You did not do anything that justified the investment of someone else's energy into constructing and circulating a distorted version of who you are. The entire thing was about them, about their fear of you, their envy of something you carry that they cannot, their need to make themselves feel more powerful by attempting to diminish you in the perception of others. It never worked. Not really. Because what you actually are, the full, genuine, extraordinary version of yourself that you show up as every single day, was always going to be more durable than whatever distorted version they tried to put in its place. And now the evidence of that durability is everywhere, in the collapse of their narrative, in the fracturing of the group that built it, in the repositioning of the people around it, in the way your name is moving through the air differently than it was moving through it when this started. You won, Virgo, not by fighting, by continuing to be exactly who you are with such consistency and such integrity and such fundamental refusal to become anything less than yourself, even under the pressure of being talked about and diminished and misrepresented. That is the only victory that has ever really mattered, and it is completely and entirely yours. If this reading landed somewhere real for you today, please share it with a Virgo who needs to feel this energy and leave me a comment below. Tell me how long this has been going on. Tell me what you have observed changing in the dynamics around you. Tell me what it feels like to hear that the problem is theirs now and not yours. I read every single word you share. Every story matters to me deeply, and I carry your energy with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, they started this. The universe is finishing it, and you, exactly as you are, exactly as you have always been, are the reason it is finishing the way it is. Stay in your truth. It has been your greatest protection all along.